We are back inside the TCO studios, and joining me today for a one-on-one is a man who needs no introduction. Future Hall of Fame broadcaster calling this upcoming Sunday's Vikings versus Lions game on CBS, the one and only Kevin Harlan. Kevin, thanks for joining.
Oh, I'm so glad to be on. Thank you for having me.
So a lot of our viewers know you from your marvelous work you do in NBA on TNT. You know, our local market knows you from being the play-by-play guy in the 90s for the Timberwolves. But you were on record saying earlier this year that to get yourself ready for basketball games, you like to get there a few hours early, you know, fill it out a little bit, see the guy shoot around. However, for football, how does that work for you, especially during the times we're in right now?
Well, as a crew, CBS will make us go into the city where the game's going to be played by 6 o'clock on Friday. We get tested, and then we go right back to our rooms, and we are quarantined until we leave Sunday morning for the game. So that'll be my schedule. This week, I would love to go out and have some time with some of my friends like Tom Hanneman and others, people from the Timberwolves days, Skip Kruger.
Yep.
But we can't do that. So I'll be in my room just working on my notes. And then Sunday, I try to get in the booth about 3 to 3.5 hours prior to kickoff. I give that the first hour a chance for me to get all my notes and everything out of my bag. And then 2 hours before kickoff, we go through our graphics. We do some quick stand-ups for CBS and things of that nature, and then we kick it off. But I love watching a stadium wake up the morning of a game. Mm-hmm. There's nothing like coaches and players out on the field, and it's a real neat experience, and I love that. And can't wait to get to the Twin Cities and do that very same thing this Sunday morning.
You're very familiar with the Twin Cities, and you're very familiar with a guy who meant a lot to the Twin Cities, Sid Hartman. What were some of your fondest memories of him?
Well, I worked with his son, Chad, with the Timberwolves, so it kind of began with that, but knew Sid even before Chad joined our broadcast crew. And, you know, there are few people in the business that you look at or meet or see, and like it's kind of like looking at a Hollywood star, right? It's kind of like looking at someone and going, "There's Sid, like there's Sid Hartman." And I remember thinking that very thing when I first met him, my first year at the Timberwolves in '89. He had known my dad in Green Bay with the Packers for many, many years. My dad always talked about Sid Hartman, so for me to see him for the first time in person and then actually talk to him was a pretty big thrill. There are few people that have had an effect on a community in the newspaper business the way Sid had, not just on the Twin Cities, but the entire upper Midwest. He was one of the most influential people I think any city in any part of the country has had.
Indeed.
That was part of the media. And so I go back and think of the times that we were crossing paths, and you'd always say something kind of funny and we'd catch a quick laugh. And I always enjoyed that. He sure treated me well. And I know my dad and him were very, very good friends. And my dad had the utmost respect for what Sid meant to the NFL, to Major League Baseball, to college sports. You know, he was one in two generations, not just one in a generation. Yeah. He was once in two generations. He was that far-reaching.
Well, this is a must-win game for both teams this upcoming Sunday. What are your thoughts on these two teams, Vikings and Lions?
I think the Viking launching pad felt its first takeoff of the season last week in Green Bay. I think that victory is going to spin into a nice run here. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of teams may be getting a little fatigued, kind of the dog days of the season, the middle of the schedule. Not until like late November and December do teams kind of ramp it up. I think the Vikings are going to be motivated because of their record and their slow start. A huge win last week at Lambeau.
Yeah.
I just think that's the beginning of this whole thing, to be quite honest. No team has surprised me more than what they've not done than the Vikings. I thought they'd be out of the chute and playing terrific football. I think last week in Green Bay was off the launching pad, and I think now they begin a nice run here and make the North very, very competitive in the last month of the season.
I want to have some fun with you with this next question. I'm going to have you finish a sentence for me with one of your legendary calls.
All right.
Dalvin Cook right now is running.
And will not be denied. There goes Cook for 6.
He is a man on a mission right now.
Screen left to Dalvin. Makes a Packer miss and is loose. Touchdown! 4 touchdowns.
Well, I've got the utmost respect for him. I just think he is a player that feels he's got a lot to prove. He's not going to make the big money contract and then kind of just disappear. He wants to be even better than before the contract.
Yep.
We know it was a chip on his shoulder. I think now he's going to parlay it into, I'm going to be the outlier here. I'm going to be the guy that meets and exceeds this great contract I've signed. So talk about respect. A few running backs I respect more than Dalvin Cook.
This 2-5 Vikings team that finally got off the launching pad last week still have yet to win a game at home. How do they change that this upcoming Sunday?
I just think it's just a continuation of what they did in Green Bay. I think that the second half of the season, I think will prove people right who thought the Vikings would be a force. There's plenty of time. They can definitely be what they wanted to be. And it may be a nice continuing Chapter 2 story inside their home stadium on their own field this weekend. And we don't know about Stafford because of the COVID.
Yep.
But I would tell you that I think the Vikings will be ready to go. I have no doubt in my mind about that. They're too proud a bunch with too much to prove.
Yep, that game will be 12 p.m. on CBS. Kevin Harlan will be on that call with no regard for human life. Thank you, Kevin.
No, we want the Vikings with no regard for human life. Thanks for having me on.